I'm going to keep on recording.
No, I don't know. Okay, I'm recording, but I've no idea. No idea.
Okay, Jeff.
No, nothing.
No, you've got to go a bit further towards Rodney. You know,
One of my favourite movie makers is Alexander Korda, and one of his lesser known films I remember seeing when I was a young kid, maybe about 5-7 years old, called The Man Who Could Work Miracles. And there's something really magical about that film. This ordinary man walks to the pub, starts talking with the locals. What would it be like if we could do with these extraordinary powers, with these extraordinary powers?
We're just talking about miracles. Yeah? You may not believe in miracles, Mr. Fotheringay, but I do. Not to believe in miracles, I say, strikes at the very roots of religion.
We must make it clear what a miracle is, see? Some people would argue that the sun rising every day is a miracle.
Well, some of us do.
Not what I call a miracle.
Just that section, just that sequence, to me was just magical in itself. The rest of the film was great, but it's that sequence where, just with that small idea of somebody walking down a street, going to the pub and starting a conversation, and the whole conversation turning into something extraordinary and slightly surreal. I thought this would be great to kind of try and get the Born End Camera Club to try and do something like that.
Born End Video Makers has been going for many years. I got involved about 10 years ago. David Jarman was working on some edit of a documentary, and I thought it'd be fun to go along and see what video makers do.
I kind of quite like the idea of so-called normal people making extraordinary films. So many new ideas came out of it that I'd never thought of. Like, for example, Derek Miller came up with that really great idea of having a priest in the background somewhere in the pub listening to what was going on. I'd never thought of that. And then, of course, the Miss Rose section, which definitely was in there. But then again, there was no reason why Miss Rose had this thing against him. You know, why did Miss Rose dislike this character? The anti-hero, I suppose, really. And it was Mark Gardiner, who helped us with the camera on that film. He came up with this. He came up with the idea. Well, maybe he saw Miss Rose in the back of a car with a priest. Something a bit controversial again, a little bit edgy. And I think it's good. We should be doing these edgy things, for a camera club. We shouldn't just be filming ducks on a pond,
Let's get the Bible.
Keep the cameras locked.
I know, we've just found out.
It worked out quite well in that we'd worked with John Turner before. We knew the sort of character that he could portray in that scene. Peter Rose had played the priest before in one of our earlier films, Murder at the Manor, and when we wanted to add a priest character into the film, Peter was a natural choice. I think he carried it off very well. At the time there weren't any lines written for him, but it was just the presence of someone to be able to get that message. Because it still takes place in a pub, Jeff, Dennis and myself had been to the Red Lion on numerous occasions to photograph the place, get an idea of what was there. We then tried to film as much as possible to get a base for the story, actually in the pub, in the evening.
I thought we could get away with using available light because, as you know, video in the viewfinder looks great, but it's not until you get it in the computer and you actually look at it and see all this noise flying about.
We were trying to make this in HD, suitable for projection on a cinema screen.
After so much effort, you don't want it to look terrible. Either you make the whole thing grainy, so it looks as if you fake it, as if you intended to do it. But we didn't intend it to be like that. We intended it to start from an old movie quality. But then again, you thought, well, the alternative is to do a green screen. So we asked if everybody could get together again, and we shot it in this room with this green screen that hangs up in front of the fireplace there. There's a pub next door. We got pints pulled and came round. It couldn't be better.
Well, they've just arrived in the pub, and Jack's come down with his beer, so he puts his beer down. Dave actually has been in the pub a little bit, so confiscate a bit of his beer.
Oh,
You
sorry
touch
about
that.
Confiscate some of it now. No, because you need it full for later.
And we shot it in a couple of days.
It gave us a lot more control over what the image was going to look like. But the work that we did in the pub was very good because it gave us the idea for the lighting.
We did use some of the original pub shoot, like when Jack enters the pub. We obviously have to pan round to reveal the bar and stuff like that. The stuff was shot at the bar looked good in quality because it was bright enough. There was enough light, so that was okay.
One of the cameras we wanted to position effectively in the Inglenook fireplace, that was going to be an impossibility, but with doing it in front of a green screen, we could get those camera angles that we couldn't have got actually in the pub, and I think that worked out extremely well in the finished product.
I'm really glad we did it because the quality is really good.
If you watch the film before you've been told it's all done in front of a green screen, I think you'd have a hard job spotting where the seams are.
How are you finding the experience so far?
Well,
I actually thinking about it, I could do with a bit more rehearsal.
I could do with more beer, to be honest, thinking about it.
You're easily pleased, okay. Right, more beer for him and more rehearsal time for me. It's just that coming from a stage convention, I'm used to about 100 hours rehearsal before I do a scene. And so sort of doing it from that, it makes it more natural, but it's not as rewarding as working on the character with a group of other people. That's the film industry. You're just supposed to turn up and do it, just switch it on. And it's something I'm still trying to get used to.
I believe anybody can do anything, basically. Most of the ideas that I've put forward have been written in 3 hours. Without thinking what the ending is, without pre-thinking the idea. You just sit at the computer and you start your first sentence, and then eventually things happen just by doing it. I'm a great believer in that. When the process is initiated by the seed of the idea, you talk over it with the members, you then kind of hone it and fine-tune the idea. And then you have problems. There's always problems, that's life. But the beauty of the whole process of making films is after all the problems that you come across and you're climbing that mountain, at the end of the day you actually see something for that effort that you've made. It just builds you a better person. You become a better, and you know you're a better person. There's nothing like it in the creative process, and it's not just film. It can be painting or music or anything like that. It's just another thing to do. It's a real quality that you've actually done it and you've achieved something.